Welcome to Plowman's Backyard. My name is Kendra, and today we're going to be focusing on collecting seeds. Variety of seeds, variety of vegetable seeds, and even getting into flower seeds. Collecting your own seeds is a wonderful way to begin growing your own garden, but it's also a little bit about self-sustainability, because when you don't have access to certain seeds, then you can't actually grow the plant and the food that you want to. And it also keeps you stocked up on those favorite plants that you like to grow when you come around to buying seeds. Sometimes they're all out of your favorite variety. So collecting seeds, just make sure that you have those seeds. One, so that you can resow and plant your garden next year. Two, it also provides a lot of diversity in what you're growing. If you are focused on saving seeds, you can plan your garden out ahead of time so that you're not going to be cross-pollinating your plants. Another thing, it could provide an income if you're into selling seeds. I haven't done that yet. I hope to at some point to do that. And also seed sharing and seed swapping. The thing is about seeds, you can spend about, anywhere from $5 to maybe $8 and get anywhere from 3 to 30 or 50 seeds. But when you're saving your own seeds, you can have one plant. So this is right here is one lettuce plant that I planted. I sowed the seed and I planted and I grew it out. It is now going to seed. So I planted one seed to get this plant, this one plant, and I'm going to be getting hundreds of thousands of seeds from this one plant. So today we're going to go through and see the seeds that I've got that are available that I can start harvesting right now. And there are certain plants that will go to seed every year. There's also certain plants that are biannual that will only go to seed the second year that they're planted. So knowing a little bit about when and how to save seeds is kind of important, but it's really simple. Once you get the hang of it, I'm sure you'll love it and you'll fall in love with saving seeds. It'll become your new hobby, your new obsession, I'm sure. This here is my devil's ear lettuce, which I haven't had in the past few years. It hasn't been available online to get it. Last year I came across about a pound of the devil's ear lettuce seeds. So I was determined to try to get seeds from it. So I planted it extremely early because you need that length of time for your plant to actually producing its own seeds. So this one doesn't bolt easily, which means it doesn't go to seed easily. So I had to start it a lot earlier than I would have perhaps another lettuce. So when lettuce tends to bolt, what it means is it's actually going to seed. So this one, the reason why I've always liked it is because it doesn't go to bolt very quickly, which means I can still collect the lettuce as long as possible. Unfortunately, that also means it's not going to go to seed and I can't collect seeds. So planting it really early provided the opportunity for it to go to bolt and go to seed, so I can collect seeds for this year and have it for the years to come. Now, if you look over here, we've got the dinosaur kale. Unlike the lettuce plant that goes to seed every year, kale, broccolis, cabbage, things like that, they are biannual. So they only go to seed in their second year. So what I'm going to be doing with this kale, it's one of my favorite kales, is the dinosaur kale here. It will stay in this bed and I'm going to leave it over winter, and then it's going to grow again next year and it'll go to seed next year. When you're looking at biannual plants, plan ahead, find where you want to plant them where they can stay for another year if you want to collect seeds. And that's exactly what I did. I planted this here specifically so that I'm going to keep it here and collect seeds next year from this plant. It's also really important to know what you can plant next to each other so that they're not going to cross-pollinate. Because these are going to seed now, I'm collecting the seeds. I will be pulling out all of my lettuce seeds, and this is what's going to be left for next year's seeds, so that it's not going to have anything to cross-pollinate with at that time. So basically, how you know when your lettuce is done, it's going to go to bolt. Basically, it's going to send off shoots and it's going to flower. Now, this one was just flowering last week, but they'll basically be a little yellow flower. You want them to die off, and then they're going to get this fluff on there. So once it gets this little fluff, kind of like a dandelion fluff, it's God's method of spreading its seeds so it continues to grow. Basically, that is what's happening with this. The seeds are still attached to the fluff. Generally, I wait until they're completely all dried out and the fluff is gone. The seeds are still attached to the fluff, but those are all of the lettuce seeds. So I'm just going to be collecting those seeds. The only reason that I like the fluff gone and I want it to be completely dried out into like a more brittle pod, I don't know if you can see it here, This pod is completely dried out. There's no fluff, but you can see the seed. The reason why I want that fluff to be gone is because there is still moisture. What you're wanting, if you're saving your seeds long term, then you want your seeds to be as dry as possible before you save them. Saving them into a dry, brittle pod like that just keeps that moisture out, and I know that it's good to put away for storage for long-term use. The reason why I came out today is because we're going to be getting about 4 days of rain, and so when I am collecting my seed, I strategically plan to collect my seed when it hasn't been raining. And I tend not to do collect my seed in the morning when it still has fresh dew. Collecting them, mid-afternoon when it's at its hottest temperature at this time of the year in the fall, that's when I would be collecting this. I have a feeling that I'm going to be doing this plant next week. There are a couple here though that are dried out, so I'm just going to collect those because I don't want to miss opportunities to save, just in case something happens, I lose time or an animal comes and eats this. Anything's possible. So I collect seed as I can. I have collected a lot over here, and what I like to collect them in is these plastic containers, just food containers. I like to just keep these while I'm collecting, and then I put these in coin envelopes or paper bags is also another thing. You don't want to put things in plastic bags because it creates moisture and humidity. That's what I like to do. You can use glass jars too if you want. Looking at it, it's like, wow, your garden doesn't look too good. If you collect seed, this is what it's going to look like. Now you may be wondering how I found out, how did I learn to save my own seeds? Well, it's a lot of research that I have done, and just experimenting and getting to know my plants every year. The more you garden, the more you come to be more familiar with your plants and what they're doing. But one book that has really helped me over the years, I've had this book for quite a long time. It's called Seed to Seed. If you look inside, it's all black and white. It doesn't really look that interesting. It's been so helpful, and it's exactly what it says: seed starting, growing your plant, harvesting your food, and saving seeds. And I can leave a link in the description below to our Amazon affiliate store where you can purchase this at no cost extra to you, but it does help out our channel. So it's Seed to Seed, Seed Saving and Growing Techniques for Vegetable Gardens, and it's by Suzanne Ashworth. I do recommend this book. If you don't have it, it definitely needs to go into your gardening book library. These are the dill seeds. All I do, I've got some started here, but basically I'm just shaking them off. You can put them in a container and shake them off. I just like to kind of pull them off, the ones that are ready to come off, and put them in my container. And it doesn't take too long to save these seeds. And you can see here I've got quite a bit, and there's still more to collect. Well, the next thing that I'm going to be collecting my seeds from is the dill plant. Basically, I just love collecting seeds. It's a wonderful hobby and a little bit of an obsession maybe. But you plant one seed, you have one plant, and you get hundreds of thousands of seeds. For such little effort, you get such a great reward. We purchased these seeds, I want to say maybe last winter, last spring, and now I have just more than tripled my amount of seeds by planting this and collecting seeds from it. This one specifically is planted mostly for the dill seeds. So it is a fern leaf dill. So there are some ferns on it, but most of the time you're going to find that it's going to give large seed heads, and that's specifically for making your dill pickles. I've got a few different varieties of dill, but this one I wanted to save seed from because I only got maybe about 20 seeds in the pack that I did buy for maybe about $7 or so. I'm just putting seeds away for future years or to share with friends and family. Basically, every plant that you come across, if it has the opportunity to grow to its full potential, will then shoot off flowers, and the flowers dry out and give us seeds. There's a ton of seeds to be collected here, and it's going to be a lovely harvest of seeds. There's another good seed head that went to seed. I'm just pulling them off and putting them into the bucket or the container. So if you have any of these containers, I just save everything that I can just to store some of these seeds into until I can get them into smaller packages. And it really doesn't take long at all. You could probably supply your whole neighborhood with vegetable seeds for the following year. And again, you want to make sure that your seeds are always dry when you collect them. So this here is our basil plant. Again, letting it go to seed is quite simple. The basil plant is starting to bolt. It's starting to send off seed shoots. You can keep snipping them off and getting rid of them, and your plant will continue to grow. But once you stop cutting back those little seed pod shoots, then it'll eventually allow it to go to flower, which will allow it to go to seed. So these are still in flower at this moment, and eventually all the seeds will be in these little pods. And so I've got a lot, I don't know if you can see even over here, we've got a lot more basil that's going to seed, but we're going to be focusing just on this right here for now because these have dried up. So I'm going to just check and make sure and see if there's some seeds in here, which I believe there is. And I'm just going to take all you basically want them dried just like everything else. The seeds will be in the pods. Take out the green because we don't want any moisture, and you're just going to crack it open, rub it between your hands because it's all dried up, and you will find some seeds if they haven't already fallen to the ground. Basil seeds, they're quite small and black, so I'm going to have to sift through this stuff that I have collected and find those little black seeds. Also have some more over here that have dried out, so I'm just going to collect these. Again, I'm going to just get rid of the green because I don't want moisture to be in this container. Are radishes. Now they have gone to flower, so they usually send up a little shoot like this, and we'll eventually get these little pods after the flower falls off and form these little pods. Now you can eat these much like a green bean, and they are edible, but if I'm just going to take one, sacrifice one for the sake of this video, but these pods are not finished yet. You want these to go crunchy and hard and brown. Now radish seeds have a very small kind of life. They're very quick to grow and very quick to go to seed, so you don't have to wait long for radishes. Eventually when this goes brown and goes very hard and crunchy, you want to open it up, and all the seeds for the radishes are inside of this pod. But just for the sake of the video, I'm just going to show you where you can find the seeds. So the seeds you can see are right here, and they will be brown and hard. That's what you want to look for when you're saving your radish seed. These aren't done yet, but they won't take long to finish up. And we've got a lot here. Now I have had a deer come and kind of devour these plants. We also have some more lettuces going to seed, a different variety here. I think these are more of a leaf lettuce. So we have reached the bean garden, believe it or not. I have basically devoured this bean garden. I've collected all the beans that I could, and everything that's left here is going to be going to seed. So it's going to be my seed for years to come. So these beans are not ready yet. I'm gonna, again, I'll sacrifice another, but you're gonna want these to be completely dried up, brown, crunchy, and hard before you save the seeds. So even though the bean might look dry when you harvest them, if there's any moisture in it at all, even if you think that it's completely dry, I guarantee you that they're going to go moldy and fuzzy. So you want to make sure these are crispy and hard and dry. So basically you're going to want your bean to look like this. It should look like there's beans on the inside. You can see the rivets, the roundness where the beans would be stored, and that just lets you know that the beans are forming, because you want your bean seeds on the inside, or your dried beans, to be very big and fat. Basically when it is dried up, this should open up no problem at all, and these beans will be brown, really dark brown. Typically they might be a bit different in color, but they should be hard. These are very moist. They're still a little bit hard, but they're not ready yet. They're not dried, still very wet. But this is where your seeds are going to be for your beans. So this pod has to be completely dry, and you're wanting to save these big fat looking beans for seeds. So the next two really easy thing to save seeds from is your tomatoes. It's probably the first thing that I ever saved a seed from was my tomatoes. And I'm going to go inside and show you how I save my tomato seeds for years to come. As well as peppers are really easy to save seeds from. The only thing is you want them to completely finish and turn color. This is a banana pepper. It's actually, we eat it when it's yellow, but as you can see, it's got a bit of color. It's turning more like an orangey red. And so basically I'm gonna want that to finish turning color, and then open it up and just save the seeds from it on a paper towel or on a plate or something. So typically most peppers, even if you're growing specifically, you're wanting green bell peppers, typically, well, pretty much all green bell peppers aren't originally supposed to be green. They are usually gonna be like a red, an orange, or a yellow. Green is just the early stages of the pepper. So you're not going to want to save the seeds from necessarily a green pepper, but you're going to want it to finish off, let it change color, whatever color it's supposed to change, and then go ahead and save the seeds from that pepper. One thing that I've learned over the years about saving seeds from tomatoes, yes, it's very easy. You can do it just about any time of the year, but because we are a short season area where we grow our food, I have typically always picked the very best tomatoes to save seeds from and the earliest tomatoes to save my seeds from. You don't necessarily have to. Basically any time that you get tomato seeds, they will grow. The reason why I pick the best is because if, say, a tomato is prone to cracking or blemishes, if you pick the best, the chances are a little lower. But when you collect seeds from the tomatoes from the early part of your garden harvest year, just means that your tomatoes will be a little bit earlier growing the following year. So if I'm collecting seeds right now in the fall from my tomatoes, it could mean that when I plant my tomato plant, it's going to take longer for that tomato to ripen up and grow. So just in general, I always try and save the more earlier ripe tomatoes seeds rather than the later in the year tomato seeds. The next thing that's really easy to save seeds from is squash, which I've got my squash plants here. And I'm also going to take you inside and show you how I save those seeds. They're really easy to save seeds from. Saving seeds, especially tomato seeds, is very simple. This is the method that I tend to do, and I have never had any issues with saving seeds this way. Just on a paper towel, and I'm trying to get most of the jelly off and allowing them to dry, and then storing them in a coin envelope or in a glass jar once they're completely dry. There is another method though you can use, which is the fermenting method, in which you would place the seed as well as the jelly pulp that is with the seeds in a glass jar, and you would let them sit with the pulp for about 3 days in a warm place, stirring daily, and then have some fermenting and maybe some kind of mold growing, which helps break down that jelliness. Once you see that over the next 3 days, you would fill the jar with warm water, allowing the seeds to settle, and then you would pour off that mixture of seeds and water, allowing the heavier seeds to go to the bottom, tend to be more viable, the heavier seeds, and the ones that float on top with the pulp, you would just discard them as well and strain them. After that, then you would go and do the drying process, which is kind of what I'm doing here. You would put them on a paper towel or a paper plate. So those are the two methods in which you can save tomato seeds. I just find this saves that little bit of fermenting step, and I have been using seeds for up to 8 years just doing it this way without any issues. So there's lots of different ways to save tomato seeds. Just find what works for you. You can even save some of those old tomatoes that you might find on the ground outside in the garden to save seeds from. The next thing is saving seeds from squash is really simple. You don't need to do the fermenting as you might want to choose to do with the tomatoes. Basically, you're just taking the seeds out of the ripe squash and you're just taking them out and you're going to dry them. Now, what I like to do is put them in a bowl and allow them to sit with some water. So basically, I'm just collecting all the seeds and then I will fill the bowl with the water, and I let that sit generally overnight just to get some of that pulp up to the top of the water, and just kind of mixing it around, taking out what I can and allowing it to sit, and then taking out anything left over and allowing them to dry. Once they're completely dry, you'll know they'll just fall right off the plate. You'll have squash seeds for next year. So these here are actually my carrot seeds. Well, eventually will be carrot seeds, but these are the carrots that I planted last year, and they have went to flower because, as I said earlier, root vegetables need to go, they're biennials, so they need to be planted 1 year and also either left in the ground to regrow the next year, or you actually take those carrots and plant them a second year to produce flowers. So these here are the flower heads, and once these have completely dried up, all of these little white spots will actually be carrot seeds. Again, you get an abundance of carrot seeds from just one carrot. The funny thing is, they actually, because I did save my own carrot seeds last year from this exact garden, they actually fell and re-sowed carrots themselves. Now, it's not going to be much of a carrot harvest, These are just what re-sowed themselves from last year's seeds that fell, the ones that I didn't get a chance to collect. Now I haven't really tried to grow these, but these are just, like I said, the fallen seeds from last year's seeds that I was saving. That's what they look like. First year, they go into carrot, they look like this. Second year, they go and shoot up and bolt and go into a flower head. And I do have a video, like a little short that I did last year on saving seeds. So this is kind of where I'm curing my potatoes. We harvest them almost 2 weeks ago. When you're curing your potatoes, you want them in a dark, dry place. So this is our woodshed, and they are drying out quite nicely. They're not getting the sunlight, but I just wanted to show you because with potatoes, there's some that go green because they maybe weren't planted deep enough, or I didn't hill them enough, or they got sun during the curing process. And what I've been doing for the last few years is just taking the ones that are green, and I actually been planting them. Last year I saved the green ones and I planted them this year in the garden, and this is what I got from my green potatoes. They don't turn out to be green potatoes, but like this one, for instance, is quite green. This is going to be my seed for the following year to plant for next year's potato harvest crop. You don't need to necessarily go out and buy potatoes every year. I know some people cut their potatoes and plant them, like their large ones. We like to eat the large ones and save more of, the medium to smaller ones for the seed potatoes for planting in the springtime. So I hope this video has been helpful and informative for you, and maybe even encouraged you to start looking at how can I save seeds, and to look and research when and how to save your seeds. I think that you will just be so in love with saving seeds. It's just going to become a natural habit for you, just like it has been for me. So thanks for watching again here at Plowman's Backyard, and as always, I hope that it has been super helpful because I love sharing with you what I have learned and have experienced over the years. That's why I'm here, and encourage you to do the same thing that we're doing here at our homestead.